If you're that person, the one who secretly prides themselves on never being a bother, on always being the easy friend, then this is for you. We're going to dive into the hidden struggle behind that very common point of pride, what it really, truly costs to be low maintenance.
Okay, let's just jump right into it. Have you ever felt that little ping of satisfaction? Someone calls you easygoing, accommodating, low maintenance, and, it feels like a compliment. It feels like you've somehow won at not being a burden. But what if that compliment is actually hiding something much, much deeper?
And this is where things get really interesting. There's this huge disconnect, isn't there? On the outside, to everyone else, you're the picture of calm. You never complain, you always just go with the flow. You are never, ever a burden. But the reality on the inside? It's a completely different world. You might feel just exhausted, right down to your bones, a little numb even, and just quietly, deeply overwhelmed in a way you can't quite put into words.
So let's peel back the layers on this illusion, because here's the thing. For so many of us, being low maintenance isn't actually a personality trait we were born with. Nope, it's a role we learned to play. It's a default setting we adopted. And when "I'm fine" becomes your automatic reply to pretty much everything, you slowly, quietly risk losing your own voice in the process. And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? We think being the strong one, the easy one, is a shield. We think it's protecting us and our relationships from any kind of conflict. But over time, that shield gets heavier and heavier, until one day you realize it feels less like protection and a lot more like a cage, trapping you inside a version of yourself that's not allowed to have needs or even just a bad day.
So let's talk about the consequences, because this stuff builds up. There is a massive hidden emotional cost to constantly pushing your own needs to the side just to keep the peace. See, emotions don't just disappear because you ignore them. They go quiet, and they wait.
And all that waiting, well, it leads to this. This is the real price of that silence. It shows up as those sudden emotional crashes the second you're finally alone. It's that baffling, intense irritation over something tiny that shouldn't even matter. It's when you start analyzing your sadness from a distance instead of just letting yourself feel sad. And maybe the most painful part? It creates this deep, quiet loneliness because the people who love you only know the easy you, not the real you.
So here's the really crucial part. You become an expert at sensing everyone else's emotional state, right? You can feel the tension in a room instantly. You know exactly when a friend's "I'm fine" is a total lie. You become this lighthouse, guiding everyone else through their emotional storms. But you're so focused outward that you can't even begin to name the weather that's happening inside your own heart. Now, it is so important to understand this next part. This is not a character flaw. It is not a sign that you are broken. This low-maintenance persona is actually an incredibly intelligent adaptation. It's a survival strategy you learn for a very, very good reason.
Psychologists often call this the Fawn response. We've all heard of fight, flight, and freeze. Well, this is kind of the fourth survival instinct. Fawning is when you learn to create safety for yourself by becoming as pleasing, as helpful, and as agreeable as you possibly can. Basically, making your own needs invisible to avoid conflict or rejection.
And here's how that pathway gets built in your brain. Maybe you grew up in a home where big emotions were treated like an inconvenience, or where showing any vulnerability just made things tense. While your nervous system, in its absolute brilliance, adapted, it learned that being agreeable, small, and accommodating was the safest way to exist. Agreeableness became your armor.
So, how do we even begin to change a pattern that's so deeply wired in us? Well, the good news is, reclaiming your voice isn't about some sudden, dramatic personality transplant. It really starts with small, quiet victories, tiny shifts that you can practice every single day.
A huge first step is just reframing what it means to have needs. I think we often believe that setting boundaries is like building these big walls to shut people out. But try thinking about it like this. They're not walls. They're gentle guidelines you offer to other people on how to love and care for you well. They're all about protecting your well-being so you can have healthier connections. And these can be your very first small steps. It can start as simply as just admitting to yourself, in the quiet of your own mind, "You know what? I'm not okay today." And then maybe telling one trusted friend, "Hey, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed," instead of that automatic "I'm fine." Try practicing asking for something small and specific. And maybe the hardest one of all, learning how to receive that help without immediately apologizing for needing it in the first place.
This is the core belief we are trying to uninstall. You do not have to push yourself to the absolute brink of exhaustion just to earn the right to rest.
You are worthy of care and support and rest simply because you exist, not because of how much you can endure for other people. Which brings us to our final and honestly most important point, giving yourself permission to simply be human. You are allowed to be messy. You're allowed to have needs. You are absolutely allowed to be tired and to take up your rightful space in this world.
And remember, that easygoing nature was never a lie. It was a brilliant and powerful tool that helped you survive. You should honor it for the safety it created for you. But now you're in a place where you can do more than just survive. You are allowed to thrive.
So I'll leave you with this final question to think about. What if we've had the language wrong this whole time? What if being high maintenance isn't the character flaw we've been told it is? What if it's just another way of saying you're being honest about what it means to be fully and beautifully human?